This is the Tree of Life, Season 30, Chapter 3. In this episode, we will be talking about the role of disbelief in fragmenting linear perceptions and unifying them around common objects. In Season 30, Chapter 1, we gave an example of sequential choices. In that example, in a sequential substitution event, the first impulse acquiesced to resulted in a spoon being taken from a dishwasher. The next impulse, to retain the spoon, is negated, followed by replacing it with a fork. Later, it is discovered that in fact, the subject still had a spoon, which she then acquiesces to eat her dinner with. This example was described in parallel to a story told by her dinner companion about a spoon. Now, the interesting thing about this example is that under preference shifting, under tautology, the first digital structure is replaced by a second distinct digital structure describing a distinct impulse. But in this example, we see the original digital structure reverted to by hierarchical recursion. In that episode, we talked about how it is the salience of the spoon to the story of the dinner companion, linked to the action of the incoming consciousness in reverse substitution, which results in the glitch. That is, the spoon has a special salience to the dinner companion, and since that dinner companion, by reverse substitution, is the incoming consciousness, we see that salience reverts to the action. In the last episode, we talked about how in the stacking of perceptual experiences, we see that the objects referential to each consciousness have analogues in the lives of their lateral alters. We talked about how when there is a shift in one person's objects, it will be mirrored by a shift in the objects of another. In this episode, I would like to explain what this entails. Let's say the story that the dinner companion was about to tell the subject related to an experience where they were left in total disbelief. Likewise, the occurrence of the glitch for our subject, where they discovered that despite their attempts to obtain a fork and believing they had a fork, they were instead left with a spoon, is also one in which the emotive response is disbelief. So perhaps it is the commonality of this experience which unifies the stacking of their perceptual experiences. But no, to be precise, it is the unification of their experience in the emotion of disbelief which results in the overlap of their perceptions within reverse substitution. To explain what I mean by this, I must refer to the last episode. Namely, we called the suppositional thought, which eliminates multiplicity of structures describing the same impulse, as direct ground. In that episode, we talked about how hierarchies produce the dialectical degeneration within the mind of a subject by way of these suppositional, or direct ground thoughts, which reflect the compelling of acquiescence as a thought descends to consensus. This reduces multiplicitous digital structures to a single structure, while at the same time producing the stacking of perceptual experiences. This suggests that in fact there must be a reverse process, a kind of anti-direct ground, which describes the situation where a single digital structure with unified priority splits to become multiple with conflicting priority. Now, at the same time, this splitting would seem to eliminate the stacking of perceptual experiences produced by consistent priority. This antisupposition, this disbelief, represents the elimination of stacked perceptions is relational to some object or set of objects. That is, this disbelief unifies parallel perceptual experiences relationally through the medium of some common object. So we see that it isn't just that the story of the dinner companion was about a spoon, it is also to do with the fact that in both experiences that spoon signified disbelief. We see this also in the fact that ordinarily in hierarchical reverse substitution the action of the incoming consciousness fulfills the objective-oriented goal of the outgoing consciousness, in this case to obtain a fork. The fact that this was not in fact the outcome reflects the splitting of that digital structure into two hierarchies with divergent expectations. In fact, it is clear that under one of those structures the desirable outcome is to obtain a spoon, whereas in the other it is to obtain a fork. From all of this we can see that disbelief plays a role in parallel experiences between distinct vessels, according to distinct hierarchies, just as belief or supposition plays a role in the stacking of experiences according to analogous objects. That's the end of the podcast for today.